What's up, everybody? Good to see you. Good to see you. Happy Monday. We are back for our evening stream. Tonight, we're going to be covering missing people in the Old West. Really, the American frontier, let's say. And a little bit of Australia, to be honest with you. Way more people going missing in Australia than there should be. Everybody goes missing in Australia in the 19th century. There we go. Is that more cinematic and less spooky when I put the light there? Spooky, cinematic. Spooky, cinematic. All right, welcome in, everybody. We're going to wish Bama Deanna an official happy birthday. She was on our lunchtime stream, really our 3:30 stream, but nonetheless, a revered member of our live chat. So we'll let everybody kind of pile in here for a minute or two. But interesting live stream tonight. I think this will be a good one. It's not as I don't want to say campy, but it's not as campy as it sounds. It's pretty creepy. Let's see who we got in the live chat already. James Groves, good to see you. Bob, I always mispronounce this. Baba, is it Baba Ganache? Baba Ganache? Good to see you. Good to see you. Pet Detectives, good to see you. Scotty Price, what's up, man? Good to see you. Glad everybody is making it in. Troy, what's up? What's up? Pennsylvania Plowboy, I knew we'd see you here. Arizona boy, what's up, man? What's up? Got a lot of birthday wishes for Bama Deanna in the chat already. Well deserved. We are happy to see it. Give everybody another minute or two to come on in here. So if you just got here, we're going to talk about missing people in the Old West and the American frontier. What a common and disconcerting occurrence it was. Phenomenon it was. David Rudd, what's up? All right, we got a good number of people in here so far. Short stories by Kate, as always. Good to see you. Good to see you. Come on in, guys. We had a fair number of people come out for our midday stream too, so it's good to see everybody. We did a really good stream this afternoon, kind of going over what we'd be talking about, and it was a good stream, right? It was a good stream. But Elite Super Grunt isn't in here yet, but Elite Super Grunt got me hip to some shady things about Mr. David Paulides, and I'm rather dubious on some of his claims now, just in the interim between our last stream and this one. So we'll get Elite Super Grunt in here and talk to him about that. He's got some, I don't know, extraneous claims. Sometimes it might be hard to substantiate. David Paulides does, but still, people are going missing. So I'm not sure if we'll watch Missing 411, The Hunters tonight. We'll see. We'll talk about it. But nonetheless, whether or not, I think long story short, Paulides is positing that Bigfoot or aliens took a lot of these people when there's really no evidence of that. Sometimes he leaves stuff out of the stories that really was pertinent evidence. And it just makes it look more mysterious than it should be for purposes of telling a story. And that's not with every story. And I'm not a Paulides fan, all right? But I don't know. I'm a little dubious of some of his work. So let me know in the chat if you think we should still watch Missing 411. But whether or not he's telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth for completely above board reasons, there are still a lot of people that go missing. And it doesn't mean necessarily that they go missing for supernatural or conspiratorial reasons. It just means that they go missing. And it is not a new phenomenon, as we will cover tonight. Let's see. Arizona boy, I keep forgetting today is Monday. Magic Keycast, what's up, man? Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. Hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Tired of turkey yet? Says, oh, why not? Oh, own yet? I don't know. I don't hate turkey. It just depends. If it's good, I'm down for it. But if you get a dry turkey, you know what I mean? I think we can all pass on that. Check everybody in the chat real quick. I'm waiting for Bama Deanna to get here. We'll give her a happy birthday. Also, speaking of, so we got these cool new mugs in, right? This is our prototype. The official one's going to have, it'll be full bodied like this, a little darker. The logo is going to be on the side. So it's going to be cool. It's a prototype. So we've got a couple things to iron out. It's going to be really cool. I'm not kidding. It feels like really good in your hand. It's a nice, substantial mug. But all that to say that Doc Willis, a member of our chat, oh, good. Bama Deanna is here. So perfect timing. I'm talking about the mug to say that Doc Willis just emailed me and said when the mugs go into production here in hopefully 2 weeks, hopefully less. He's buying one for Bama, Deanna. So Bama, Deanna, we're going to get your shipping address. We need you to send that to the email, and we will be shipping you out a mug in the first batch that we get, courtesy of Doc Willis, a fine, upstanding gentleman and member of our chat who I don't think is here yet. I haven't seen him in there yet, but a wonderful, wonderful gentleman and a deserved gesture. So he'd like to buy you one. And then when we get the shirts in, we're going to send you a shirt too. Thank you very much. Absolutely. Thank Doc. And we are glad to have you here. You've been a pivotal member as we build this community. Very cool, Doc. Yeah, Doc is the man. That was really cool. I just got the email. So when he gets in here, we'll be sure to thank him. And we'll give you a quick, what is it? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Bamadina. Happy birthday to you. So thank you for being here. We really appreciate all your support. All right. So now we are going to get into missing people in the Old West. And okay. I said Old West, right? That's a little bit of an open term here. I talk about how the Old West goes into the 20th century. And to me, it goes well back into, I would say, the 1500s, because Old West is a relative term, I think. Like, what do you mean by West, right? So we're going to go way back. Oh, gosh, we're going all the way back to the 1590s to start. I've got these written in an old school notebook. So what's up, dog? We were just talking about you and what an upstanding philanthropic citizen you are. I got your email about the mug. We'll be sending that out. And thank you again, sir. I have some. Bam Deanna says, I need to know if you just write okay or spell out okay. Oh, good question. The email address is history at the okay, like just the letters OK, corral at gmail.com. So just like I'd be just like the channel, but that's a good question. I didn't think about that. Okay, so lots of birthday wishes. Good for you. I was hoping we'd get a lot of them because you deserve them. Okay, so that happy subject aside, we're going to delve into the horrifying instances of missing people on the American frontier in the Western Hemisphere. Let's say we've got a couple Canadian stories. We have a Cuban story. We have a couple Australian stories, guys. There's way too many missing people. There's like 20 people in Australia in the 19th century, and half of them went missing. I'm being facetious, but you know what I mean. There's not a lot of people, a lot of them going missing. And I mean, it makes sense. It's not, again, nothing supernatural there. It's just that it's a massive desert. So people went missing. So we're going to start with something I think quite a few of you will know. Roanoke Island, the Roanoke colony. They had, I got to look up the dates because I'm just kind of researching all this before we went live here. But the Roanoke colony, in between our live stream this afternoon, it is 1590. It is in present day, I believe, Virginia, but I just want to make sure. Yeah, Roanoke, where do we go? Okay. In Virginia, basically what happens is the English settlers come out. Where did my live stream go? Working out the tech, guys. Sorry. Live stream. There we go. English settlers come out. A segment of them are supposed to basically like stay here, keep the colony going, right on the edge of Virginia, I believe it is. The rest of them say, okay, we're going to go back, get more stuff, get more people, get more supplies. We'll come back and really start building the colony. But when they come back, I believe it was a year or two later, there's nobody there. There's no village. There's just the carving in a tree that says Croatoan. That's a local tribe, but there was nothing else saying anything. And usually there'd be, I mean, this is a literate society. This is, they've got plenty of supplies and plenty of means to leave a message. Nothing was left. And the colony pretty much, has literally just disappeared. There was nothing ever found of them from there on out, at least contemporaneously. But there was apocryphal stories of surrounding tribes having Anglo-looking members for years. So, the insinuation being that the colony was absorbed into the surrounding tribes or a nearby tribe in the absence of their countrymen. This is a famous conspiracy missing persons story. We'll try to provide some credible or some feasible explanation for every case that we cover. I think with Roanoke, they were likely they likely were absorbed into another tribe. There's plenty of mysteries surrounding it, but seems like the Occam's razor of the situation would be that they left the sign of the tribe that they were going with, and just were never able to be contacted again. It's not completely unheard of that a substantial amount of them could have perished from famine, disease, any number of things, and the remainder were absorbed into local tribes. Yeah, Bama Dan, if you know if there's a update on the Roanoke, let me know. I figured there'd be some missing pieces because I've got a long list. So if I'm leaving stuff out of any of these, I know some of these are famous stories. So let me know if I'm missing any details here. Let's see. I'll check the chat real quick. Alaska is a hot spot for missing people. It is. I don't think I have a lot of 19th century missing people accounts from Alaska in this list, though that doesn't count native. That doesn't count for native accounts, et cetera, et cetera. It just means the record keeping wasn't as stringent there. It was solved through DNA. Okay, all right. That's kind of like that was going to be my conclusion, anyways. It's like it's not a mass disappearance. There's a logical explanation for it. Yep, there's still missing an update. There's been an update on Roanoke Island. All right, just checking there. But it seems like they were absorbed into the surrounding tribes. Wouldn't be unheard of. Certainly wasn't unheard of in individual cases. And their countrymen were gone for a long time. So if you have no one else to depend on, you're going to end up folding into the society of your neighbors just to survive. So I think a feasible explanation there. If you have any other alternate explanations, hit me with them in the chat because that's the fun part of this. We're on to David Thompson. So I got the list on the computer. I got the names list on my notebook, but I got the other lists on the computer here. Let's see. The Word doc. Okay, so 1628. Okay, I got to scroll back. There we go. So David Thompson. Oh yeah, David Thompson. He is the founder of New Hampshire. He had moved his family to Boston Harbor, and in 1628, he was getting ready to become one of the first settlers of Massachusetts. Plum disappeared. They saw him last in Boston Harbor. I believe he was boarding a ship. Something, yeah. And he was just seen last on the harbor, as all my notes say. But he disappeared in 1628. Some people theorize that he was unalived, and some people, a lot of these theorize the person was unalived or they were running from their wife. So those are the two options with him. But never seen again after 1628. Disappears, never seen again. We're on to an interesting, I think, tragically little known story of Australian history, where it's the story of the first two European inhabitants, presumably the first, safe to presume the first of Australia. It would be, I believe, northern Australia. I always get that mixed up, but I think the northern coast of Australia. Two men named, I mess these up because it's Dutch, Wouterloos and Jan Pelgrim de Bay. I think that's as close as we're going to get. But they had planned a mutiny aboard this ship called the Batavia. Now, the Batavia had this terrible shipwreck just on an island north. I think it's still called Batavia Island. I wrote a paper on this in college, but that was a little while ago. But everyone was shipwrecked. They went like full Lord of the Flies. There was unaliving rampant. There was a cult leader. There was manipulation. There was starvation. People were losing their minds. Eventually, they got rescued, but the Batavia mutineers who had rebelled against the captain were sentenced to be marooned on the farthest island they could find, the farthest coastline, and that was Australia. It's present day Australia. It was, the end of the earth to them at the time. But they were marooned there, never heard from again, never seen again. No one knows what happened to them. Could have been one of those instances where they were folded into the native tribes. Could have been one of those instances where they were unalived by the native tribes. Nobody knows. But they are the first known Europeans to have inhabited Australia. So interesting tidbit there, and pretty creepy. If you really put yourself in any of these people's shoes, disappearing in any of these places, the last hours, days of their existence would have been an utterly, utterly horrific, terrifying experience. So that said, moving on to 1661, it is July 4th, 1661, when Rene Menard, I have a tough one with that. He's a Jesuit priest. And the Jesuits, as we talked about before, have their fingers in all kinds of pies. He was in, where'd my list go? Okay. Sorry, the screen's kind of all over the place tonight. So we have 16. He was in Taylor County, Wisconsin. There we go. He was a French Jesuit missionary. He traveled to Wisconsin from France, and he also just plumb disappeared. They think he might have been taken by a neighboring tribe. They had worked with, I believe, the Huron. I'm going to double check that, though. I believe it's the Huron. Let me just double check. Got to do this on the fly. He had disappeared on, he was a minister of a Huron village. Oh, disappeared. There we go. I knew there was something crazy with this. He disappeared on the river, but I can't see. Disappeared near Lake Superior in Wisconsin and into the river. They never saw him again. They didn't know what happened to him. And then his cassock was found at a Dakota village. So somewhere down the river. They never found his remains. I think I can say body on here. No, they never found his remains, but years later they found his cassock, which is pretty creepy. They never got an explanation for how the Dakota got it, but they found it. Let's see. On to Abigail Williams, one of the first girls to make accusations of witchcraft in Colonial, was it Williamsburg? Colonial, Massachusetts. She was kind of the tinderbox that started the Salem witch trials. She made her final court appearance in 1692 and then completely disappears from the record. Like, completely disappears. Never mentioned again. That is not the case for any of these other people. So without anything else to say anything different, we can only assume that there's nothing to keep a record of. She's not around, right? Very, very odd. No explanation for that. Disappears from the record. No explanation. Never heard from or seen again. Very, very, very. Some of these are very, very odd indeed. Let's see. James Herard. I've got that. Oh, James Herod. I think it's pronounced Harrodsburg, Kentucky, but he's the namesake of Harrodsburg, Kentucky. He was an earlier explorer of the Appalachian Mountains, kind of in the same time period as Daniel Boone. Another Kentucky frontiersman. He took off into the woods, leaving from Harrodsburg, so on a frontiersman expedition. Essentially, if you're familiar with mountain men, it's kind of like the predecessors to the mountain men. They would go out on long, weeks-long, months-long trips into the frontier, Ohio, Kentucky. That's the edge of the American frontier at the time. And they're going out usually in search. They'll go for bear. They like bear meat's a big popular thing. Elk were around at the time. Some beaver, like pelts and stuff, but usually white-tailed deer, because that's the currency of the frontier at that time. Like that's where the term buck came from. It was a buckskin. That's like, this is how much it was worth on the frontier. You give him one buckskin. So a little etymology there for you. But Herod, I believe it is. Herod he went on this trip, disappeared. And it's another one of those things where he's never heard from again. A million things could have happened to you, right? You could have tripped and fell and not been able to get up while hunting on your own. You could have fallen ill, attacked by a bear. But the two things that are posited again here are that he was unalived by an enemy tribe. Would have probably been the Shawnee in that area, is what most people guess. And that would be, if I had to guess, that would be my estimation or my semi-educated guess. Or that he was running away from his wife. You'll see a lot of that. There's a lot of that. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of a little backhanded jab at the wife. Let's see. And I'm aware a backhanded jab isn't a real thing. I'm just saying. Terry R with a $2 super chat. Buckskin, never knew that. Yeah, that's where the term buck came from. Couple bucks. Let's see. Thank you very much, by the way. Thank you. We've had a lot of people gifting memberships too. That's wonderful. Thank you all so much. Thank you for all the super chats. Appreciate them so much. It's what makes us able to do this. So you guys have been fantastic with that. Can't thank you enough. And to take this moment to encourage you to become a member. We got lots of members only stuff coming up too. Take me, Sky Brothers. Save me from alimony. Yeah, Troy knows how it is. Sometimes it's what did St. Paul say? It's better to live in the desert than with a quarrelsome woman. These guys are really taking that to heart. So we're on to James. Sometimes I can't read my own writing. Durham. It's like not D-U-R, D-E-R. Oh, yeah. The first African-American to formally practice medicine in the United States. He was a slave, born into slavery, had essentially been, the way I'm understanding this, like an indentured apprentice, an indentured servant, but also learning the medical trade to a number of doctors. And he eventually made his way from Pennsylvania to New Orleans. And I believe he went missing in New Orleans, but maybe it's Pennsylvania. He disappeared in 1802. He had run into some trouble with local authorities not allowing him to practice medicine. It obviously wasn't a super popular thing with citizens of that time. Not as unpopular as you might think, especially in places like New Orleans, but enough where he was getting some trouble with his business and then summarily disappeared. Make sure I'm not leaving anything out. Because he was making, I wrote this down, about 80 grand a year. Like he was doing well. Then he wrote a final letter to one of the doctors he had studied under, and that's pretty much it. Some authorities, or some experts say that he passed away from a throat disease, but I was right. It's New Orleans. He just up and left shop and was never heard from again. Built a couple new enemies in town and mysteriously disappeared. He was as prolific a letter writer as anyone at that time. Letters were a relative constant between friends in different locales, and to just disappear. It's very odd even then to disappear with no explanation and no remains, no evidence, nothing. Okay, that's a creepy one too. James Durham. Look more into that if you want a good story. Longer. I have a long list, so if we go into every single one of them, we'll be here longer than we normally are. Okay, on to Otter Woman, 1813. So this is one that comes from the Lewis and Clark expedition. Otter Woman was the wife of, I messed this name up too, a French trader who came and was dealing with Lewis and Clark. And everyone's accounted for. Sacagawea is accounted for. Otter Woman is accounted for as the wife of the Frenchman. She's accounted for once or maybe twice, and then never mentioned in the record again, which is, again, very, very odd. She's part of the party, and then she's gone. No one knows what happened to Otter Woman. Some people propose that she was kidnapped by the Hidatsa, I believe, who was a rival tribe of the French trapper, sounds like. So there was some retributive motivation there, but never mentioned. No record of anything, and no record of her in any of the tribal lore surrounding the areas, and no mention of her in Lewis and Clark's records. So very odd. Certainly a disappearance. Another curiosity. We're on to William Morgan. Let's see the list here. Oh, guys, I think I lost the list. I gotta bring my Google Docs back up. Did I really lose it? Okay. Okay, there we go. Live entertainment, folks. Okay, so I gotta scroll all the way down my list. At least this one's typed out, though. The one in my notebook is getting a little rough. I think I got excited and started writing stuff down too quickly. Okay, so there we go. Okay. William Morgan of Batavia, New York, disappeared just after. I wonder if is Doc Wills in here? Now, Doc, this isn't a personal attack, bro. Okay. This is just the story as it sits. But it says that William Morgan was a writer who published a book critical of Freemasonry. And a year after he disappeared, I guess he was found a year after his badly deteriorating remains, or that which was thought to be his. Oh, no, okay, I wrote this out wrong. They thought that they found the body of Morgan after he disappeared. They did not. So he simply wrote a book about the Freemasons not being all awesome, though we know Doc to be an upstanding man. Cool dude. We love you, Doc. I'm just saying this is part of the story. The guy wrote the book about the Freemasons and he disappeared. And then a year later, they said, oh, we found him. And then they examined that. And the coroner was like, no, you didn't. This isn't the guy. So that's working with early 19th century medicine as well, medical technology. But it's on the list. Okay, on to where are we at here? A lot of you guys, we're like not even halfway through these names. Henry Bryan, another Australian instance. Like I was saying before, guys, way too many people going missing here. So December of 1839, he accompanied in a German expedition. I think it was German expedition. An expedition, another exploratory expedition, which were just taking place during this time in Australia, Burke and Wills being the most notable one. They went through Murray Bay to the Burra area of South Australia, and it's believed that they perished in a dust storm coming back to South Australia. They later found his saddle and some of the tracks that they left, but never his remains. Then his horse, without his body, with no one riding it, returned to Adelaide several months later. Very weird, very strange. I mean, we can assume he is no more, right? But very odd disappearance. Just disappeared in a dust storm. That's what we got going on in Australia. There's so many of these. I had to cut names out. I had to say, like, well, this is another guy got trapped in a dust storm or something, it says. And like, I only got so many names on here. I got 28, 30 names. People just keep disappearing. This was from like a couple of hours of research. Doc Wills, it's a true story. Which part? A lot of people discovered in New Orleans, especially all the whiskey makers sending their goods there from Kentucky, they seem to never make it back home. Yeah, these are just the people of relative note. These are the people that were recorded. I think you can take the number. This is a small number of people who are recorded, just a small sampling I was able to find in a couple hours. I think you could times this, man, by, I don't know, I'm going to say 10. Does that sound fair? That you could take this, maybe even more than that. If 100 people we know went missing, I would say it's more like 1,000. So it's a lot of people. And like I want to keep reiterating that I have as much of a conspiracy encrypted bin as anybody, but I don't think that's the case. I think these are just crazy, wild areas, and people go missing for any number of reasons. And that's kind of what's going on with Missing 411. We just, I think, underestimate how wild these places are and how easy it is for people to go missing. And that's been happening for a very long time. But all that said, some of this stuff is very suspicious, certainly curious. So I think it's worth discussing. Oh, let me see. Okay. This is actually, I wanted to get Doc Wills' input on this. So we're talking about William Morgan, the guy we talked about who wrote the book on the Masons and then subsequently disappeared. Doc says that Morgan had become a Mason, then used his knowledge to write a book, quote unquote, exposing Freemasons. He was encouraged to leave town and disappear. He was not taken out, just roughly treated. I'm a rather neutral observer, and I would say, like, yeah, probably something like that. Morgan violated his oath as a Mason. He was handled appropriately. Okay, but I would say like it's less likely an assassin plot, more likely that he was forced out of town. And then so a lot of these, it doesn't mean that the person actually disappeared, but they did disappear from the record. So are they one and the same things? No, but in history, they are effectively the same thing. Try to never outdrink. Thank you for that, though. I was wanting to get your input on that. Julie Nelson for $5. Thank you so much. $5 super chat. It's unbelievable how many people still go missing today. Yeah, it's something I think we underestimate because we think, oh, now we have it all under control. We have nature subdued and we have trails and paths and helicopter rescue and procedures for everything. Well, we kind of do, but we really don't. It's still just as wild out there in many cases as it was in the 1800s. There was an episode of Geraldo Rivera's years ago about all the missing people in my county, in Alabama, Indiana. How you guys get so many people missing in Alabama? I'm telling you guys, it's everywhere. People just go missing all the time. Doc Will says, I researched it through the Texas Lodge of Research. Cool. No, thank you for that. I thought, let's get Doc's take on this because, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm as conspiratorial as the next guy, but that seems like a little bit of a reach in that instance. That, oh, they had him assassinated. Like I don't think that's really what happened. He just disappeared from the record books. I think I would side with you there and say he was roughed up, left town. You just never heard from him again. Okay, we're on to, we covered Henry Bryan, Charles Christian Dutton. So Charles Christian Dutton, another guy from another Australian case. He and 4 other men disappeared without trace while driving cattle from Port Lincoln, South Australia, to Adelaide. I gotta look where Adelaide's at. Adelaide is in South Australia, but he's driving them from Port Lincoln to Adelaide. I'm sure that's a rough stretch. 4 of them go missing. Another common occurrence in Old West cowboy lore, too, American cowboy lore. But in this case, a recorded instance, a known instance. Let me see if there's a picture of him. No picture of him. But he and 4 others go missing. Again, no trace of them, completely gone in Australia. Australia. You know what I mean? Just saying. Okay, we are on to August of 1843. San Fernando, Mexico saw Sequoyah, the creator of the Cherokee syllabary, which is the Cherokee written language, which is a groundbreaking thing in the history of North American tribes. Like this was akin to maybe the printing press in European history. Like just a new technology, an absolute new technology that enabled communication between cultures that couldn't communicate before. He's said to have passed away in August of 1843. He moved to Mexico after the Indian Removal Act, which we've talked about a fair bit with Andrew Jackson and Davy Crockett's opposition to it, which really, in the end, cost him his political career. But we talked about several of the Seminole Scouts families moving to northern Mexico. Sequoyah was among this contingent. They moved at different times, so it wasn't one mass exodus. But by 1843, Sequoyah was there and simply disappeared. His body's never been found. His burial, if there is a burial place, we don't know where it's at. So the guy who created, it would be like it'd be like Steve Wozniak or something, just disappearing, just going to northern Mexico and disappearing. So it's another mystery in the Old West. Something that's like, again, not really talked about, but that's very creepy, very weird. You've probably seen this guy before. If you are, let me put his picture up here. It is, I'm not even great at finding it on. Oh, guys, I'm having a tough time with the technology tonight. Henry, okay. One more time. I'm going to try to share this. There we go. So this is Sequoyah. Has everybody seen this before? This is like a land-breaking moment, or land-breaking image in American history. Steve Miller says some people go missing on purpose. They sure do. That's what they're accusing several of these people on this list of doing. A lot of these are just like, he's trying to get away from his wife. It's like, well, you know what? Maybe. Yeah, a lot of people have seen this guy before. So this guy, this seminal, image in American history, just up and vanished. Very curious, very curious. Pet Detectives, you haven't seen that. Okay, yeah. It's not the most famous picture in the world, but it's pretty famous. And for a guy of that importance to just go missing, again, nothing conspiratorial. It's just very, very curious. Okay, on the list, next up we have Oh, the founder of Portland, William Overton. So this was a curious one as well. Gotta go back to the Word doc. And we are at, oops, William Overton, the co-founder of the city. Co-founder of City of Portland. Uh, he is said to maybe have traded his shares in the city to get supplies to go back east. He collected a bunch of supplies, left in June of 1844. He was like, all right, guys, I helped found the city. Kind of had enough of it. I'm over it. Peace out. Loads everything up, takes off east. Never, ever heard from him again. Nothing. No clues, no supplies, no nothing. Um, relatively, that's not terribly common for East Oregon. So a lot of people are thinking that he didn't entirely disappear. There's some guesses that 20, 30 years later, he was state sponsored, unalived in Texas. And I've seen another couple records say that he went to Hawaii, which again, that sounds crazy, but it's not unheard of. They were called the Sandwich Islands at the time. Mountain men would go there, sailors, traders. It was a place you could get to and a place you could escape to. So that's not completely implausible. Honestly, guys, it's not crazy that you'd have some kind of attack or mishap in Eastern Oregon, but it's not super duper common. It happened. And if somebody was trying to get out of trouble or just disappear, you could do it by just going to Hawaii. You could do it by going to Texas. I think it's unlikely that 31 years later he was hanged, but I would find it more likely that you could go down to the West Coast. You could get to Hawaii from San Francisco. You could get there from almost any port city would have some kind of transit that'd go to Hawaii, then to Shanghai, then back to Hawaii, then back to California or Oregon or Washington. All right, $5 super chat coming in from Pet Detectives. They go missing, but does anyone go looking for them? Yeah, there's Old West search parties for sure. They would go out and do something similar to what we do today, where they get arms linked apart and then walk an area. But you're kind of doing like human metal detecting at that point. And you're talking about thousands and thousands of acres. So other than going out and calling for them, and they would spend days looking, especially when kids would go missing on the trail. But there's two problems where you can't yell and scream too much. You don't want to alert hostile tribes to your presence. And then two, you can't hold the wagon train up because it's not a punctuality. It's not an ambition thing. It's a matter of if you miss your window to get through the mountains in California, generally that's where you're going to run into a tragedy like the Donner Party. They were delayed 6 weeks, maybe a month to 6 weeks. And because of that, they got stuck in the snow, and you get obviously even more people unalived. So it's a real time issue too. So they'd search as much as they could, and then, sorry, we didn't find your kid. We got to move on. Or your elderly parent, your spouse, et cetera, et cetera. This happened. I'm not trying not to laugh, but the sheer scale of it is hard to comprehend. This happened so many times. Like it was not terribly uncommon, and all these people could do was move on down the trail. It seems, I think, to many of us, probably worse than them straight up passing away, because you have to move on with the unknown, and that is a burden so many people carried into the gold rush, carried into California. So we look at the gold rush. I think this is an interesting image to hold in mind. We look at the gold rush as this rush of opportunity, and everyone's out there kind of happy, optimistic, panning away. But many of them had lost spouses on the way out, had lost children on the way out, had lost parents, friends, etc., on the way out, who had either been unalived, had succumbed to some disease or accident, or simply gone missing. And they had to go out into a new area and pan away in harsh conditions with that on their shoulders. And it's like, that really sucks the romanticism out of it, but infuses it with a good dose of humanity and reality, Doc Will says child mortality was super high. It was. I think most people in here know this, but that's what skews the mortality or the life expectancy of history. It's not necessarily, really, it's not that people didn't live as long in adulthood. You can go to cemeteries and see they usually live to their 80s, sometimes 90s, late 70s. So that's not terribly unusual in history, but it is unusual. They had a much higher infant mortality rate, and on into their early childhood. And something I think that's misunderstood, you get kind of a callousness through posterity where you think, oh, well, they just probably didn't take it as hard back then. They look tough in those photos. And it's like, no, you losing your kid would be the same way they feel. Like it is, they didn't feel any different. They weren't any less heartbroken or any less grieved. And they just had to pick up and carry on. And it's just, I think that's a level of difficulty that's really hard for us to contextualize today. They couldn't call their mom or something. You couldn't call your friend. You are alone here. You're surrounded by the people in your wagon train or your village or whatever, and that's all you got. You got to pick up and move on. And that was so common, and I think it is underestimated in our view of the totality of Old West history. Because it's like, yeah, we view it as kind of a painting in our mind, and like, no, it was a very rough day-to-day reality. And it is today too. I'm just saying. All right, on to Ludwig Leichhardt, another dude that was like, he's a Prussian explorer, right? So he's from Prussia, which is like modern day Germany, kind of. But he went to Australia, and it's like, bro, I'm telling you right now, it's the 19th century. Don't go to Australia. There's no need to keep exploring this thing. It's not working out for anybody. But he said, no, I can do this. So Ludwig goes out he goes out on an expedition, northern and central Australia. So Burke and Wills seems like they went from east to west and then returned. So that still leaves big parts of, if you don't know Burke and Wills, that's like the Lewis and Clark of Australia. They went out. It's a horrible, they didn't go missing. They know that they didn't make it. But it's a horrible tale. We'll have to do its own live stream of it. But they didn't go as much north and as much south. So that was still left to explore. And these guys just kept going for it. So Ludwig was last seen in Darling Downs. It's in the Great Sandy Desert in Western Australia. It was investigated by many, but he was never found again. They still don't know. It's like, bros, just stop going to Australia. Go now. It's fine. It looks like a wonderful country. But back then, like, get the message, man. You know what I mean? Okay, on to this one surprised me. June 29th, a rather interesting one. June 29th, 1856, Matthias Perez, a balloonist of Portuguese descent, he was trying to fly his balloon Ville de Paris, I don't know, over Cuba and disappeared over the ocean on July 29th, 1856. Just floating out there. I don't know if he couldn't stop or couldn't come down. Either thing is horrifying. So imagine in this case that you're just going out over the ocean. You have to basically float until your fuel runs out. There's zero chance. What are you going to do? You're going to make it to Europe. If you're lost, you're going to have a hard time navigating back to the mainland. You're not going to get back to Cuba. So you just float out over the ocean until you have no more fuel. And then you slowly sink into the water and then disappear. So Matthias Perez, never heard of again. I think being a balloonist in the 1850s is like being Evel Knievel, like, just like, we don't have the technology for this. Take a break. We don't need to be pushing it this hard. Evil. You got it's like a cruiser bike, and he's trying to jump it over school buses and stuff. Big fan. I'm just saying, wasn't the best idea. It took a lot of guts, but All right, on to Sullivan Northup. This list is way longer than I thought it was going to be, guys. American author, most notable for his book. Okay, so this is the author. If you remember, was it 12 years ago? A movie called 12 Years a Slave. Took over the Oscars, I believe. It was a big history movie at the time. Told a brutal story of slavery, told through this guy's firsthand account. He wrote the book in 1857. The book gets released. He goes on a book tour. It's the same as now. Like, you go to all throughout the Northeast. I think he was in Canada at the time. Yeah, in Canada. So he goes on a book tour and just doesn't flat, just doesn't come back. He's about to blow up. There's no reason for him not to come back. Never was seen again. So people posit like, was it because of his anti-slavery stance, because of the book release? Was it just a simple disappearance? Nobody knows, and that's a very curious one. Even more curious than the Mason book, I think, because it's like that would not be a popular stance in antebellum America, and antebellum America isn't that far away from Canada, but that's awful close to the Union. So I don't know. It's not impossible that he disappeared, but that one's kind of rattled around in my head since I read it a couple hours ago. Let me know what you think in the chat too. Do you think gotta look at the name again? Solomon Northrop just disappeared. What do you think happened to him? If you know anything about him, let me know. Where are we at here? We are at number 17. I'm going to take a look at the chat real quick because we are chugging right along. Guys, I did not think this list would be this long. And by the way, I think I solved the Donner Party kids. It seems like they are, in fact, seems like they're accounted for. It seems like they got unfortunately unalived in the shelter. They got squashed in there, didn't make it. But what else? What else are you supposed to write? Were you supposed to keep writing about the kid every day? It'd be kind of a bummer, you know? Julie Nelson upgraded to a level 2 membership. Thank you so much, Julie Nelson. Thank you. Like I said, hop on the membership train. We got a lot of stuff coming. If you're interested in like even more deep dives, I'm going to do a book club, just all kinds of fun stuff. We'll keep adding stuff and members only episodes, members only podcasts, members only live streams, discounts on the merch, all that good stuff. This isn't a plug this time. I really want to drink. He probably got unalived for publishing rights by Maxwell's dad. I'm not saying no. Bless ups, HOKC. What's up, Mojo? It's good to see you, man. A wonderful way to kick off the comment. Is you know what I mean? That's probably wouldn't be the first time. Okay. Looking through here. You brought up the Rothschild guy who lives the Papuan natives and went missing. Do you think he got made into a stew? Man, he's talking about, I think it's David Rothschild. And we talked about him in, gosh, what episode was that? What live stream was that now? That he actually was on an expedition in Papua New Guinea. I believe he was a photographer for Time Life. And his dad was the Rothschild who was the governor of New York, I believe, at the time, but from the highly influential, well-known Rothschild family. And he was down in Papua New Guinea on a photo trip. I believe his canoe capsized and he was never heard from again. There are some curious photos of Papua New Guinea natives with an odd-looking pale fellow, but chances are that he was caught. They were very hostile tribes who were not friendly to intruders of any kind. So chances are that he did not make it, but we don't know. He just straight up disappeared. We don't know where he went. That's a good question, man. I forgot about that. Troy sends 5 History at the OK Corral gift memberships. Thank you so much. Those are wonderful. So we appreciate the gift memberships. It gives everybody a chance to hop on a membership. Thank you so much, Troy. That is absolutely fantastic. We've had a couple of those lately, and that is so wonderful. We want everybody to get in a membership club. So, yeah, you guys all welcome in, man. We're going to make it worth your while. Thank you so much, man. You guys are great. And I like this is like we were on here earlier. This is like so much fun to just get on and talk this stuff through. You guys know a lot about these topics too, so I'm always learning from y'all. Let's see, Bermuda Triangle got him in. Oh, Pet Detectives. The Bermuda Triangle got him in his balloon. Is that the first case of the Bermuda Triangle? At least with an aircraft. I like that. I like where we're going with that. The Bermuda Triangle got the hot air balloon guy. I didn't even think of that. What kind of conspiracy person am I? Rough life in the Old West. It was. We got Matt Beach 6583. Awesome live stream. Thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate that. This is a fun topic. A little disturbing, but interesting. Let's see. Life was cheap in those days. It was. It wasn't expensive. I'll say that. I could definitely disappear in the Appalachians. Says, is it Appalachians or Appalachians, Matt? That's what Matt says, though. I think you could. It sounds like you could. Doesn't mean you should. Let's see. I think there seems to be a pattern developing in Australia. There might be, but it's all spread out all over the place. I think the pattern is don't be an Australian explorer. It's out there. We don't need to explore everything. That is a real like European bent. Like, oh, we got to explore everything. Like, well, listen. We don't have to explore everything, you know? Walker County, Alabama. You had several people. Oh, Walker County, Alabama, where Bama Deanna is from. Several people went missing, and you could also hire a professional unaliver. Well, Alabama's a rough place. Better late than never, says Classic Roger. Howdy from San Angelo. Oh, I know San Angelo, man. Right on. I know San Angelo pretty well. God's country out there. I got a couple Texas missing stories when we get to the end of this here. But we are, like I said, right in the middle of the list. A little over halfway. So we stopped with Solomon Northrop, I believe. So I got to go on to Giovanni Achille. All right, this is a little interesting one. This isn't so much the Old West, but it's early America. It's 1860s America. So I think it's Giacinto Achille. Giacinto Achille was a Italian Roman Catholic Dominican friar. Okay, stick with me here, guys. He's accused of abuse and then removed and later becomes a prominent Anglican priest, I believe. Oh, no, he's okay. He's a proponent of the Anglican communion. Sorry, I misread that. So meaning like he's demoted and then he becomes a proponent of joining the Anglican Church of England with the Catholic Church of the Catholic Church. And he then sues, I believe it's Saint John Henry Newman. I believe John Henry Newman is a saint. He sues him for libel, saying he's not guilty of any kind of abuse. So this starts a bit of consternation. In 1853, he travels to America, but in 1859, he found himself in court again, accused of adultery with a woman. Then, in 1860, the following year, he disappeared, leaving behind a note that said that he wanted to unalive himself and was never seen again. Now, was this note real? He had made some powerful enemies, or was it the recantation of a troubled man? Now, it's a real mystery that I was unaware of. And he has a history with the Jesuits. He was staunchly anti-Jesuit, and especially by that time. And they were a rather, I don't want to say nefarious, but rather infiltrated and pretty corrupt organization by that time, I think, by any objective measure. So he was staunchly anti-Jesuit, and that may or may not have, Jesuits have friends in high places, so may or may not have been the cause of his ultimate undoing. There are some theories that the note was faked. He was unalived for having powerful Jesuit enemies. Not an uncommon thread amongst conspiracy theorists. All right, that's Giacinto Achille, if you're interested in this for further reading. Okay, on to this, a long one, guys. Charles Waterman from New Orleans, the 17th mayor of New Orleans. He was in office from 1856 to 1858. Then he was impeached and removed. He disappeared 2 years later on the Mississippi River. His hat was the only thing that was found. Most people posit that he was just very upset and self-deleted by jumping off a riverboat, but he wasn't. There's no record of him being on the riverboat. Just his hat was found. He was never seen again. Hat found. Very curious. Good movie in there. Okay, on to the list. We are at, on July 15th of 1864, there was a troop train carrying Confederate POWs they were carrying them from one prison camp to another, I believe, or from captivity to their imprisonment site. And the train crashed and derailed. 65, I believe, Confederate prisoners were either grievously injured or unalived. And 5 of them, I didn't get named, but 5 of them escaped into the woods and were never seen again. So They melded into society somehow, made their way south, but there's no record of them ever being seen again. So another curious uh, instance. Nothing conspiratorial there, but it is like, wow, those guys really got away, huh? Okay, we are on to Captain James Williams Boyd. He was a Confederate officer. Oh, yeah. He vanished after his release from a prisoner of war camp in 1865. He had some dealings with locals, and he was supposed to meet his son in where in Tennessee, and they were going to go south to Mexico. Not an uncommon thing for ex-Confederates, I guess you'd say at this point, for them to go west. There was a lot of them that went to Southern California, which is really unknown. There might even be like this secret gold stash somewhere in Southern California. There was kind of like a secret Confederate society there, and then also Northern Mexico. So there was a lot of them that went there for the same reasons the scouts wanted to escape the Indian Removal Act. It was a way to um, unburden oneself of the United States laws, right? Move to Mexico. But he never showed up for the meeting, and it's posited a couple of things that he was mistaken possibly for John Wilkes Booth, and there was a hunt for the assassin on at the time, or that he was simply accosted and unalived somewhere on the trail. Because highwaymen were a real thing. Like you could really be traveling somewhere, be stopped, be robbed, be unalived. A real danger anywhere traveling um, from the 1700s until I don't know now. But he disappeared, never heard from again, yet again. Well, there's nothing saying he was trying to escape his wife, so I guess we can take that off the possibilities list. Okay, we're on to Jonathan Weiss. Cross-referencing again here. I guess I got to go down quite a ways. Okay, September 28th of 1879. Oh, man, another ballooner. I forgot about this guy. So Jonathan Weiss is a hot air ballooner. This is 15 years or so after our buddy Matthias Perez disappears over Cuba. John Weiss has a balloon. He's made a bunch of flights. He's kind of like a dude about town. He's a ballooner about town. He disappears in 1879 in his balloon called the Pathfinder. He's got a buddy with him named George Burr, and they fly over Lake Michigan and are never seen again. No bodies, nothing washes ashore. To me, that's almost more terrifying. I have a real fear of the Great Lakes. That's more terrifying than flying over the ocean. So they flew out over Lake Michigan, couldn't get back. So all you can do is wait while your little balloon sinks all the way into the lake and you're never seen again. Very, very, very creepy stuff. Let's see. I'm gonna check the chat real quick. Guys, I guess we put a little bit of a dent in this list, but a lot of missing people. Lots of Confederates went to the Caribbean islands where they had the idea of a new Confederacy, says Bamadiana. There was a couple of locations, right? Then they go to South America too, Mexico, Southern California, anywhere that was just like on the far reaches, well away from the American government. Got that. Hitchhiking way back when was probably just as dangerous. Probably. I know a lot of people that hitchhiked in the 60s and 70s and said it was cool, but it's like, was it really? It's all these serial killer documentaries say it wasn't, but I don't know. I wasn't there. There was lots of cider. Surrender Monkey says there's lots of cider and people were lying where bathrooms were. Turns out you can't have a poo on someone else's bed without consequences. Well, maybe I missed a comment before. Let me look in the chat here. I remember being on the wrong end of an undoing, Surrender Monkey says. Well, I don't know where we're going with that, Surrender Monkey. Maybe I'm missing something there. Don't do that in people's bed. So check your email. I sent an interesting map regarding the topic of the nights. Let me see. I'm going to try to. All right. I got a lot of tabs open, so give me a second here. Missing map of missing caves. Okay. Let's bring this up in the chat real quick. So who sent that? Sorry, I lost a bunch of names. Bri Berrien says I've had the same hiking equipment they had in the 60s. I wonder how they survived. Oh, I've seen the hiking equipment in the 60s. I wonder how they survived. Yeah, Yeah, that's from the 1960s. Imagine the 1860s. Who sent me the email here? Oh, Arizona Boy 96. What's up, dude? Beer rat. Got it. Okay. So let's take a look at this. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. He sent us a map of the cave systems and missing people. I think this is really interesting. There's a lot of sneaky stuff going on with our cave systems. So I'm going to bring this up here. Map of missing caves. That's it. Cool. That. So as we can see here, let me make this a little bit bigger for myself. The top is let's see. The bottom map shows America's largest cave systems, which you can see there. We can juxtapose that against the missing persons cases. And you can see an eerie similarity there. Wow, that's wild. That is almost a direct transposition. How creepy is that? Let me put a chat up here. Do you find the missing persons map creepy? Yes or no? I know I do. I'm going to put a yes vote for myself. I guess it won't let me do that, but somebody vote for me. Yes. If Bigfoot can do it without equipment, you might just be not good at walking up hills. I'm good at walking up hills, Surrender Monkey. I can do that. That's one of my few athletic talents. But I get what you're saying. That is why the Knights of the Golden Circle were hiding gold. Right. The Knights of the Golden Circle in Southern California, the LA area, right? Bamadiana. There is a substantial legend that there is a big amount of hidden gold and a lot of hidden Confederate power there, at least in the 1800s. I'll leave the map up there for just a little bit. I wonder, does anybody need me to zoom in on it? I don't know if that helps any. Look at that, though. And it is all the hot spots hit right where the caves are. Now, there's a lot of lore with caves. A lot of lore about trafficking, a lot of lore of military bases. We talked a little bit about dumbs in some of our conspiracy episodes. Deep underground military bases, dumbs. They are a real thing. There has been a number of explosive sounds reported recently with no explanation where they're coming from. And some people posit that these sounds are coming from dumbs, which who am I to say? All right, I'm going to take that map off. Everybody get a look at the map. Let's see. Do you find the missing persons map creepy? 70% of you agree with me. What 30% of you don't? What 30% of you don't find it creepy? Let's see. I live in a small town where the hill is called Hill. Pin to Hill. You're in the UK, right? Surrender Monkey. You guys have creative names for everything. Here we just name it like Big Hill. That is why the Knights of the Golden... Okay, got that. A big cache of gold was found by some common people and the FBI took it. Really? I wouldn't put it past them. Either all the lost people are cave explorers or something else is living in those caves and snatching people. I don't know. I'm sure there's some middle ground there, right? Like, oh, maybe they're just getting lost in those areas. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know, man. But yeah, something seems to be, it seems like it would be incredibly short-sighted to not draw some correlation there. The point is people always say, oh, correlation is not causation. That's fine. We can get with that. But I think it's important to say, okay, define the point at which correlation can become causation. Because at some point, that's how our legal system works. It's like we got enough evidence here to say this did happen. So at what point is there enough correlation to mean causation? So like how many people do we need to see go missing in these areas before we say, maybe there's something up with the caves, right? I don't know. Just me. Actually, that's a good... I'm going to put that up. I'm going to end this poll. You don't need it. There's 25% of you that are completely crazy and not creeped out by the caves. But I'm going to say, do you think there's something up with America's caves? That's a broad question, but we'll go with it. Hey, quite a few people in here. Good to see everybody. Good to see everybody. We are... I don't know. We're not that... We got a ways to go on this missing person list. Thomas Foran becomes a level 1 supporter, man. Thank you so much. Welcome to the party, man. Thank you so much. And I'm saying this every time someone becomes a member, but we have a lot of cool stuff coming from members, so we'll make it well worth your while. I got a book club we're going to start too. I think you guys will like the book club. Okay, so we are on to, where are we on this list? We are at 1882, Jesse Evans. I'm going to look at this here. 1882. This is quite the list we got here. Okay. It's an extensive list, you guys. How did this many people go missing? Huntsville, Texas, Jesse Evans in 1882 goes missing. He's a well-known American outlaw, leader of the Jesse Evans gang. He disappeared shortly after his release from prison in 1882. It's not known where he went. There's some speculation that he lived into the 1940s, but it's claimed by local residents that he was not unalived, and neither was Billy the Kid. It's kind of a Brushy Bill situation where he plumb disappeared. Could have been that he was just tired of the criminal life, but there's no record of him after he was released from jail. And he had a lot of enemies, So kind of like an old West mobster situation. Like, you know what I mean? You're never out. Once you're in, you're never out. Gangs are the same everywhere. Elite Super Grunt. What's up, dog? Hail chat NHOKC. Sorry, I'm late. I was doing a side job. No worries, dude. I was hoping to see you because I looked more into David Paulides, like you were telling me to with Lore Lodge. I didn't realize he released a relatively recent video saying, hold on, there's a lot of sketchy stuff with Paulides's missing persons theories. I think the stories are still just as interesting in most cases. Sometimes he leaves some stuff out, but there's still a lot of people going missing, but he's leaving a lot of stuff out in some instances that's like, well, this is actually pretty explainable, or he's trying to say it was Bigfoot, it was the aliens, like he's always kind of hinting at something. So I think it was important to take his stories with a grain of salt, but the overall arching point that people are going missing, and they've been missing for a long time, I think is important to address. But if I want to get a little alarm and have it be like our Fed alert, because it's like, this guy's a Fed, woo, Fed alert. Got my suspicions about Paulides. But either way, like I said, lots of people going missing. So let's keep carrying on with our very creepy list here. So next up, Jesse Evans disappears in 1882. 1888, I think I have written down here, but let me double check that because my handwriting sometimes not the best. We have, Black Bart, of course, yes. So Black Bart, 1888. I know the Black Bart story. He was a famed poet and stagecoach bandit, operated mostly in the Sierra Nevadas and then some in what's the mountain range next to San Francisco? But in the mountains in California. He went out there, he would stop stagecoaches, and he was kind of like a gentleman about it, but he still had like a shotgun on him. So, the threat was real. But he'd hold up a stagecoach, take the money, run, and then leave them with a poem. And there would always be, I forget what the exact poem is, but it's something like, something, something, something past, something, something, kiss my, they're pretty good. They're good poems. I stayed in the hotel where he stayed in, I think it's Marysville. Cool little hotel though. Stayed in the room that was a Black Bart room. So he had his poem on the wall. It was cool. But he plumb disappeared himself. 1888. He either gave up the life or, oh no, hold on. I'm gonna read this one. He disappeared after his release from prison, 28th of February, 1888. He'd been charged, convicted in prison, I think it's San Quentin, but I might be wrong about that. But once he's released, it seems like these guys just disappear. Like they just had enough of the life and they go into this kind of self-imposed witness protection program and you just never hear from them again. But still, it's odd that you just never hear from them again, period. That's a seminal character in Old West history. Several of these people, Otter Woman included, are well known in the historic record, and even in the 1800s, to just vanish is a little bit strange. I'll check the chat real quick. Have you mentioned the band Missing Persons? No, I don't think I know that band. We'll check them out. He was found and freed and wrote his book on his ordeal. Who are we talking about there? Blah, 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 blah. Who are we talking about, Ruger? H5H? Solomon Northrop. Okay. Freed and wrote his book. Yeah, okay. He wrote his book after he was freed, right? The shotgun was unloaded. Oh, the shotgun for Black Bart. Yeah, it was unloaded. Oh, that's a good point. I forgot about that. Yes. Didn't he get like someone called his bluff, right? I did a lot. Look at this, man. I had to research a lot of stuff. So some of it I misremember, let's say. Yeah, Black Bart was known to be a gentleman bandit, but still a bandit. Still got convicted. But I think he just wanted out of the life and retired after his release. Okay, on to and keep hitting me with the comments. I'm checking them pretty frequently. Just working my way through this list. Okay, 1902, and I tell you guys all the time, we got to count into the 1920s. I think as the Old West. 1902. I'm going through the list here. Okay. Is that what I had? Oh, John Urbanski. Sorry, my writing, guys. This one was interesting. He is a suspected victim of serial unaliver Eugene Butler, who supposedly unalived 6 adolescent young men at his residence in Niagara, North Dakota, from 1906 from 1900 to 1906. The bodies of his victims, other than Urbanski, were found in 1915, 2 years after Eugene Butler had passed away in an insane asylum. Super creepy. I'd never heard of Eugene Butler before researching this. There's something about early 1900s. Yeah, all serial killers, serial unalivers, super creepy. But a North Dakota early 1900s unaliver, that is totally the Old West. That's totally still the Old West. I don't care what anybody says. It's totally still the Old West. And this guy was doing this for years, went nuts, put into an asylum. He passes away, and they never find this kid again. And they find a bunch of, he's the John Wayne Gacy. He's a North Dakota John Wayne Gacy, right? Of the early 1900s. Super duper duper creepy. I don't know how I haven't heard of that before. If you want to look further into it, Eugene Butler. That blew my mind. I hadn't heard of that. Okay. We are on to 1902 as well. I believe it's Ida Hillis Adis, a translator of ancient Mexican narratives. She had escaped. Oh boy. She escaped an insane asylum where her husband had confined her during their divorce, and she was never seen again. So maybe she was, in this case, trying to get away from her husband. I don't know. But that's another one that there's way more people actually missing than the ones that I chose for this list. But that's one that stuck out to me where like it was not uncommon for women to be committed by their husbands. Take what you will from that. But sounds like she was put through a divorce and then he didn't want to deal with her anymore. And she just up and vanished. So to be released from an insane asylum and then vanish in 1902 in California, something happened. I think the arrows are pointing towards the husband pretty strongly here. Let me know what you think in the chat. But something happened there. I think that's worth some inspection. But nothing was ever proven and she was never seen again. No remains recovered, anything like that. Okay, we're on to all right. I kind of capped the list there at 1902. There are more missing people. There was a guy in the 1940s, I believe, that went missing and carved some odd Latin phrase into a tree. I just kind of thought like, 1940s. Maybe we'll jump back to that one. Well, while we're here, let me look it up real quick. Missing man, Old West, 1940s, just so I can see the name. Oh, I think I lost it. I'll bring it back for the next live stream, guys. I just learned about that, but a very curious disappearance as well. All right, on to a couple more. These are a couple of the criminals that got away, and I got 3 here that we never heard from again. Jack York, a former slave in Canada, disappeared in the year 1800. He was convicted, sentenced to life or capital punishment, and escaped and disappeared into the woods. Never seen again. Jean Baptiste, I gotta look that one up. I know Jean Baptiste, but I'm blanking on him. In 1862, How am I? Oh, guys, Jean Baptiste. I know this story and I'm blanking on it. Oh, yeah, a grave robber. I knew it. Arrested in 1862 for stealing items from graves. He was exiled to Fremont Island. It's an island on the Great Salt Lake, and disappeared. Like they would go check and see like if he's still there. Never seen again. There's no real way for him to get off the island. It's kind of like a Utah Alcatraz, but with, you know, nothing on it except for him. And he was never seen from again. Never seen again. Disappeared. Nobody knows what happened. Creepy little grave robber put on an island, disappeared in Utah. Hmm? Hmm? All right. Rufus Henry. I gotta look this. Is it Ingram? Guys, how am I not reading my own handwriting? It looks like Jungram, but that's how I wrote it. It's actually Ingram. Go figure. This is an interesting one. July 15th of 1864, he is a bushwhacker, guerrilla agent, a guerrilla warfare agent, let's call it. He leads Captain Ingram's partisan rangers. They're a gang of Confederates who are robbing banks and stagecoaches across California. So a great example of this kind of Confederate migration might be a little strong word, not a mass migration, but there was certainly an influx of former Confederates into Southern California, Mexico, Central and Northern California a little bit, but certainly Southern California. In July, they're out raiding and robbing banks and stagecoaches. Then on July 15th, 1864, Ingram and his followers attempt to rob a mine, but they're intercepted by police. Ingram manages to escape. Some say he flees to Missouri, but he disappears into the California hills. He's never seen again. Very curious. Very curious. He was up to some bad stuff. He was going to get in trouble. All right. Now I got a couple mountain men disappearances as well I'd like to touch on. Let me see if I'm missing anything in the chat. I'm going to check the chat real quick. Let's see. Caves are scary, says Surrender Monkey. They are. That's an international truth. If you guys want a good time, go watch some caving videos. And then when you've had enough of these guys squeezing through these little crevices, they squeeze. It's wild, guys. It's tough to watch. But when you get done with that, you think, okay, I think I'm cool now. Go to cave diving because you will see these people. Sure, there's different levels where they have 2 tanks on, and then there'll be one with 1 tank on, so you can squeeze through some smaller holes. But there's guys that take 2 tanks and they're independent of their bodies, so they can push them through the holes and they go through the holes, and it's a whole thing. It's terrifying. I don't know why anyone ever does it. It's a real thing, though. Caves, I'm avoiding at all costs. Let's see. True story. I went on a guided tour of Cheddar Gorge when I was young. My headlamp failed halfway down a 40-foot ladder in a huge cave. I've never seen that kind of darkness before or since. See, it's terrifying. Terrifying. Let's see. Doc Will says Black Bart would put sticks into a bush so they would look like barrels sticking out, like gun pew pew barrels. So it looked like he had more men. He would set up, yeah, that's true. He would set up this kind of illusory attack, this illusory ambush. And he would say, I got guys over here, and there's some sticks poking out of the bush, and they look like guns. And there's some guys over here, so you better listen to me, you know. He's a smart guy. He's an endearing guy. Like, look up Black Bart. We'll do a stream on him. Maybe as I'm from the area where he operated, so he's a super well-known. He's kind of like a Paul Bunyan. He's a mythic folk hero to us. Let's see. Quite a few folks go missing in Arizona. Yeah, the Superstition Mountains. Tons of people go missing, and then they're found without their heads. Let's see. Never learned to ride. He walked to all his robberies. That's right. Also, Black Bart walked everywhere. I don't know why you wouldn't learn to drive or learn to ride. It's like not learning to drive today. It just makes your life really difficult. But he hoofed it everywhere. So he's got like his little bounty with him, and he's just walking through the mountains. Let's see. A grave robber went missing. What a loss. Right. I mean, the only problem is he's probably back out somewhere. He probably swam to the shore, couldn't find any graves to rob on the island, swam to the shore and just went back plying his trade again. Let's see. A VR. There is a VR spelunking game, says Elite Super Grunt. Honestly, that might be kind of entertaining. Just watch the videos if you need any proof. Crazy cave diving and caving videos. These people are nuts. Missing Children on Milk Cartons program began in the early 1980s and went through the 1990s. It was replaced by the Amber Alert system. Black Bart is a poet robber, right? Yes, Space Cowboy. The Missing Children program also has some odd conspiracies around it. Not saying anything. We'll save that for another stream. But look into it. Look into it. Boys Town, all that stuff. Larry King. I find it. Uh, I find it simple. Sorry, Surrender Monkey. I find it simply amazing that people in a country the size of America kept getting caught for doing crazy stuff like robbing people. Kind of dumb, to be honest. All right, maybe it makes sense in your limited UK mind frame, right? I'm just kidding. But no, it's way more. It's just way bigger and more desolate than you would think. So it's easy to get lost. It's much easier. There's only so many people. So if you're the guilty guy, you don't have to sift through as many people to find the guy who's guilty. I get what you're saying, but it's harder to get away with the crime in the Old West than you would think. Maybe it's not as hard as today, right? Not that I know, but I'm just saying it's not as easy as you would think. They make it look easier in the movies. It'd be like us saying, like, well, why can't you just ride a horse from London to Scotland? It's not that far. And you're like, well, it's farther than you think. Let's see. Going back to the chat real quick. And then I'll hit our last missing mountain men. And then if there's anything else you guys want to talk about, we'll hit that. Let's see. Quite a few folks missing. Okay, got that. There's a local guy in Reno with a channel called The Reno You Know. He did an episode on Black Bart. He robbed a coach on Geiger Grade, a road that goes into Virginia City. Really? I didn't know that. I know he operated up by Mariposa, but all through that area. And it's like, bro, you were walking? You got those 10,000 steps in, no problem. Imagine if he had a Fitbit. He'd be so proud of himself. Okay, on to our couple mountain men that I think are curious. These aren't actual like missing people. We basically know what happened to them, but we didn't recover their remains, and we, still don't know exactly. There's no witnesses to account for their demise. Hugh Glass is one of these. He was caught. We know he was caught on an ice river by the Arikara, who he had escaped from at the sandbar fight. This is post, obviously, escaping their attack and then the bear attack. He was in several more engagements after that, and eventually caught on a frozen river. Gosh, I forget what current day state. Caught there, literally like halfway through the river, shot down by the Arikara. But that's just all the accounts say is that we found Glass's stuff and that he was likely taken out by the Arikara. But we don't have his body. There's no grave. There's no record other than that. So it's a relative assumption that he was actually taken out because, well, he'd been mauled by a bear and somehow managed to survive. So we don't know for sure, but the general consensus is that when he was shot in the middle of the ice, that's where he perished. But we don't 100% know. Next, Bill Williams. Old Bill Williams is we talked about him a little in the afternoon stream. He is, I'm trying to think of a baseball player or something that we could compare him to. Just as somebody that has played on many teams and played in the league for many, many years. He's been a mountain man with Jedediah Smith, with Jim Bridger, with Kit Carson, with Jim Beckworth. Any major mountain man name, he's worked with them. They all know Bill Williams, and Bill Williams just disappeared. He was trapping somewhere, they believe, in northern Arizona, and they think maybe he was ambushed by the Ute over some kind of understanding, though he was tight with them, maybe even an adopted member of their tribe. There have been some recent misgivings, it sounded like. It's unlikely that he just got lost. He may have gotten injured and then was unable to continue, but even that, it's like, for someone with his skills and experience, not impossible, but rather unlikely. There was 2 bodies recovered. They were believed to be him and his traveling companion, but the people who saw them said that's not him. And Kit Carson, who knew Williams well, said he wouldn't have gotten himself into the proposed situation where they found the bodies. So no one really verified that that was him, and we just don't know what happened to him. He's in... If you read a book about mountain men, you're going to find an extensive bit of writing on Bill Williams. So he just disappeared in Arizona somewhere, never heard of again. And finally, I'm wedging this in there, but Jedediah Smith, we know that he perished somewhere along the Cimarron River. He was last seen being accosted by a group of Comanches, but there's no actual account of him being unalived. There's no account of his body being found. There's a rough recollection from some Comancheros that they had seen him being attacked, but nothing saying we've seen him actually unalived on the ground, other than they brought back some of his effects, I believe his pistol. And that's like kind of the Old West equivalent of proof of death, but never officially found, never officially recovered. No eyewitness testimonies of exactly what happened to him. For all intents and purposes, the greatest mountain man in the history of the job disappeared. So another very odd instance. Let me check the chat real quick. I need to revisit that episode. My details might be crossed with other accounts. Let's see. Oh, you're talking about, okay, I got you. So I'm reading Space Cowboy there. Okay, Doc Will, they caught Black Bart because of a laundry bag. Oh, was that, okay, this is jogging my memory. A laundry bag that had his name embroidered on it, or maybe embroidered on the tag in San Francisco. Is that right? Because San Francisco is kind of the hub for the West Coast at the time. So Black Bart would do his thing and then come back to San Francisco, do his thing, come back to Frisco. I call it Frisco. I don't care. Are you familiar with the Karuk Indian tribe? I am not, Space Cowboy. Who is, where are they from? I'm not familiar with them. Oh my gosh, you could fit the UK into Texas several times over and have some left. Yeah, I mean, just ask a Texan. You could fit a lot of states into Texas. They'll tell you all about it. What happened to Tom Fitzpatrick? Oh, that's, I think Tom Fitzpatrick, maybe I'm thinking Fitzgerald, but he had disappeared for a while and then reappeared at the rendezvous with white hair. He had like a full head of regular, brown hair. And then when he came back a couple months after being lost, he straggled back in the camp, half starved, and had a complete head of shock white gray hair. See, the Comancheros allegedly traded his pistols and rifle. Arizona Boy says, yeah, the Comancheros allegedly traded his pistols and rifle away. Jed Smith's pistols and rifles. Right. But they didn't give any account of finding his body, the state that it was in, where it was found. They just said like, hey, we got his pistols. Because they're rough dudes. Let's see. Northern California. Oh, Northern California is where the Karuk tribe is. Okay. Just found out one of my friends is Karuk ancestry. Very cool. I should look more into the northern. I did an episode on the Pomo, 2 months ago, probably now, but I would encourage you to check that out. It's on the Bloody Island Massacre in Clear Lake, California, up in Northern California. Julie Nelson says, gotta go. Good night to all. Great job, HOKC. Thank you very much, Julie Nelson. Great to see you. Glad you're a level 2 member now. That comes with its own perks. I'm waiting for YouTube to approve those perks. And once they do, they told me it'd be 24 hours, a little more than that. I'm going to be sharing those with y'all. Late joiner from Texas Roadhouse again. You're just coming in from Texas Roadhouse, Comic Dog? What's up, man? A laundry tag from Black Bart's jacket was left at a robbery. That's what tied him to it and convicted him. Okay. I was thinking it was a laundromat for some reason. You can put Texas, California, and Florida in the state of Alaska. Oh, we're starting the Texas versus Alaska thing. I like it. Let's see where this goes. Alaska is a bigger state. It's a much bigger state than Texas. The Comancheros were bad dudes, says Pet Detectives. I saw the John Wayne movie. Yeah, hey, people can knock old Westerns all they want, but they covered a lot of these topics. A lot of these little known topics and battles. They're in a lot of 50s, 60s Western movies. And Comancheros is up in my top 10, maybe top 5 John Wayne movies. We could do a watch party for Comancheros. That'd be, I think, edifying. Bribarian says, I'm from Denmark. Sadly, no Wild West stories here. No, but y'all got the Vikings. I mean, not bad. Plenty of history in Denmark. Let's see. Wow, great to see everybody in the chat. Awesome. We got quite a few in here, so give me a second. I'm going back through them. Okay. Sierra Nevada mountains are next to San Francisco. Sierra Nevadas are on the eastern side of the state. I forget what I should know, but I forget the name of the mountain range that's on the western side. Vikings discovered America. They very well may have. I did an episode on this, 2 years ago or so. The recorded battle between Eric the Red or Leif Erikson, who came over from Iceland, came south, and somewhere around Newfoundland, I believe, encountered a tribe there, and they had a brief battle. One of the Vikings was unalive. They buried the Viking there, according to the Viking accounts, and then I think they left. They maybe tried it out for a couple years and then left. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like that's legit. We were talking a couple streams back about how it's very likely that Polynesians had some hand in settling in the Chumash tribal area in Southern California and also places in South America. And the trans-Pacific voyage would have been very doable for the Polynesians at that time with the technology and experience that they had available. Plenty of evidence for that. We don't have a lock solid case, but plenty of, I guess you'd say, forensic evidence for that. Chicken bones from chickens that only existed in the Polynesian islands appearing in South America, and yams, sweet potatoes from South America appearing in the Polynesian islands. There'd be no way for those things to float across the Pacific on their own. How could they discover it when people were already here? Says Bamadiana. Fair. Vikings, you maybe would say first contact, first New World, Old World contact. He was a Norwegian. Wait, let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Clock Cutter says it's Diablo Range next to San Francisco. That's it, man. Mount Diablo. I've run Mount Diablo. That was a tough one. That was a tough run. Let's see. Vikings discovered America. We got that. As per Alaskans, Texans are a nice little state. It's so cute. That's Stephen Miller's words, not my words. But yeah, Alaska's a big state. We can't argue that. Let's see. Are you saying Bribarian? I'm trying to see who you're talking about. Are you talking about Leif Erikson, Eric the Red? I'm not sure. You're saying he was a Norwegian Danish king. He was sentenced to exile on Iceland, and he made an expedition to America, made a settlement, and fought the locals. That's pretty much what the episode sums up. They stayed for a little while, right? Talking about the Viking who found America. Yeah, I mean that's how we sum it up in the episode. You'll like the episode then, because that's pretty much what the episode says. They got into one major conflict that they record. One of them was unalived. They made a settlement. I think they just like weren't having a great time, and they were fighting the locals all the time. And eventually said like, all right, we've had enough of this place. We're going back to Greenland. I think some of the Templars came to America in the 1200s. Could have. They have the rune stone. The Templars have an interesting history, that's for sure. I think they started as an altruistic organization because they're essentially warrior monks from they're like the Crusades are a contentious topic, but really they started over kind of a retributive impetus and a travel dispute. They were like, we can't just keep getting raided on trips to the Holy Land. So the Templar were kind of warrior monks who accompanied people to the Holy Land, and then eventually were used to great effect, certainly, and then rounded up by the French king, I believe. Bernard de Chauveau was burned at the stake. Several of them were burned at the stake. Very interesting accounts of them being rounded up. Most of them escaped. I think it's overblown that they rounded up all the Templars and burned them. Like 99% of them escaped, but they burned the leaders. And I don't know, I'm on the fence of whether they were good guys or bad guys. Let's see. But I'm open to either one. I used to be a huge Templar fan. Now I'm a little more circumspect in my viewpoint, I would say. Let's see. Talking about the Viking. Okay, got that. Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, I never thought about that. I've never thought about the naming. It's a good point. Because they suspect Vikings could have made it to Minnesota. I never thought about that. At least all of Texas is livable, says Doc Will. Most of Texas is livable. Adrian Peterson is probably the most famous Minnesota Viking in modern times. Yes. Yeah. In modern times, yes. Who was that DN you guys had? Jared. I forget his name. Hell of a DN, though. That guy was great. The Vatican finally announced that the Templars were innocent. Did they really? I didn't see that. Did they really do that? I can't believe you. I mean, the Vatican wasn't anti-Templar, though. I can't believe you are not happy about the Spanish dude who was Portuguese discovering America. Me, I'm agnostic to that. Can't believe you're not happy. I'm agnostic on I'm just looking for accuracy, I would say. We got 77% of you think there's something creepy with America's caves. All right, okay. 23% of you think there's nothing creepy about America's caves. I would challenge the 23% of you to go spelunking at your nearest available cave and report back to us and see what you think. Yeah, I was going to say, well, Brett Favre as a Viking, that was tough to see. Not as tough as seeing him as a Jet, but tough to see. I was going to say, I'm trying to think of like famous Vikings. Yeah, Adrian Peterson's the first one that comes to mind. I'm leaving somebody out. I feel bad now. I'm leaving somebody out here. Let's see. Caves are off limits. Yeah, caves are off limits. There's a famous cave here in Austin that they just closed up probably 10 years ago now, but these kids, like frat boys, like squeezed back in there and got trapped, which is kind of like at that point, it's a mental thing, right? What are you going to do? You had the search and rescue come in and calm you down. Like, sorry, bro, you got in here this way. There's only one way out. Well, what are we going to trank him up or something? But like, tough news, buddy. You're going to have to squeeze back through there. What do you want us to do? Templars were innocent. They were powerful because they had the world's biggest. That's true. Yes, they had the money. They controlled the money. And with the first traveling checks, yes, they invented the first banking checking system in Europe. They implemented it. Let's not say they invented it, but they implemented it. They held the money bags. Kings and nobles owed the Templars much money, and poof, debt gone. Yeah, I still err more towards the Templars being, like any organization, there can be malicious actors. So I think that could have been the case with the leadership, but I think in general, like, no, these guys were warrior monks. They were incredibly what's the word? Indispensable, but I'm looking for a fancier word than that. Indispensable, though, in carrying out any of the later crusades. I think they were reputable dudes. I don't know. I think you had to live a pretty pious, penitential life to even get into the organization. Let's see, Randy Moss. Randy Moss for sure, dude. Thank you, Rand Tarkington for sure. Randy Moss, though, yeah, dude. I wasn't as big of a Randy Moss fan as a kid, and now I'm just like, that's my dude. 84 don't stretch on game day. Like, yeah, don't stretches for losers. Let that be the lesson for you. Stretching's for losers. King Philip came up with all the accusations against the Templars because he owed them so much money. Yeah, that seems to be a consensus in the chat, and I'd have to go with that. All I'm saying is like I said, I think the right word is I've become more circumspect. I used to be staunchly pro-Templar. I think I still am, but there could have been some misdoings at the highest levels in the later stages. I would say that. And I think it could have been subverted and turned into something. When you have something that's that powerful, it doesn't mean that you necessarily need to eliminate it. You need to rebrand it and put different people in charge. So I think that might have been what happened as well. But for that much power and influence to just disappear, I think it went somewhere. I'm the warrior monkey. I'm of the warrior monkey lineage. I'm not sure what that means, surrender monkey. But I like it. I like the attitude. Clock Cutter, Ragnar Lothbrok, Eric the Red, Fran Tarkington, and Adrian Peterson, the most famous Vikings that I know. Fair, I'd go with that. Wasn't Doug Johnson you guys' quarterback too? He was good. He was pretty good, I think, if I remember right. He had the full face mask, like 3 bars, 1 bar. 90s quarterback. See, people get lost and trapped in the caves around Austin, cost the cities hundreds of thousands of dollars. Exactly. I was just talking about that. They love to like squeeze their little butts in these little tiny caves because there's caves all through the hill country. It's like, just stay out of the caves, guys. What do you think you're going to find in there? It's going to be a big dark hole. What are we talking about here? What's it going to be? Oh, this dark hole was different than the last dark hole. It's a big dark hole. Let's see. Good night from Louisiana. Marcus Wyatt says, good night, man. I enjoyed your show. Thanks so much, man. Thank you for being here. We'll see you. We'll be back tomorrow. So come on back. We got a couple episodes out this week. Lots of stuff. Surrender, engineer says, what? Me worry? Nah, not you. Bam Deanna says the Templars were all rich and of noble blood. That's how they became the Templars. Piety had nothing to do with it. Well, they essentially had to take the same vows as monks. You're right. You came from a noble lineage. I believe they had to take a vow of poverty. So they are noble, but they surrender their assets. Basically, that's how they became. That's a large part of how they became so rich, because the Templars themselves couldn't have any property. Let's see. And they had to follow a monk's daily prayer routine. So morning prayers, afternoon prayers. There's a whole, if you're Catholic, you know the daily prayer rule. So a very involved theological, spiritual life as well. That was a big part of it. Their diet was influenced, so they couldn't eat meat. There was a lot of stuff that was a religious practice that really played a direct part in their day-to-day life. See, sinkholes are scary. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Not a fan, bro. That's why I stay out of Florida. I think the French king seized the Templar assets. I think something like that happened, right? I think maybe they took some players in the organization and just rebranded it and kept it going surreptitiously. I don't think they just like got rid of the organization. So my thought is like I am pro Templar through the Crusades, and then post that things get a little murky. Like I don't know if they fully disbanded. They may have been compromised. They may have had their top guys. There may have been agents in there compromised, and the power and influence within the organization may have been reverted for other means. Like, oh, you're boys with this guy. Now I'm boys with this guy. All of the not just the money. They commandeered all the influence as well. And I would imagine a fair amount of the personnel. Because if the Templar is particularly useful to you, you're not going to burn him at the stake. Still works that way. Sinkholes, scary. No sinkholes, man. I have a strict no sinkhole policy. That was a front of the Templars. What do you mean, Bamadiana? A front of the Templars. Front of the Templars. Let me know. I'm kind of getting where you're going, but let me know exactly what you mean, a front of the Templars. PJ Shu, Domine, Dona Es, Requiem, Clonk. My Latin's not that good. I used to have better Latin. Dona Es, Requiem, Clonk. Not sure what that means. You're hitting somebody over the head after saying something is what I'm guessing. Let's see. Bribarian says, Bribarian, like barbarian. I get it now. Bribarian says, and like a bear. I get it. Leif Erikson was the Viking that I found. I'm sorry. Leif Erikson was the Viking that found America if you read a Scandinavian history book. I will shut up about the Vikings now. No, keep going, dude. That's what we're here. It's talk history. Let us know anything else you got on the Vikings. Like I said, I did a Viking episode. I'm down to do another one. Let's see. Engineer, let me know what that Latin phrase means. I'm trying to piece it together, but I'm not going to be able to do it live. I watched several videos about the Antioch church. Very interesting. Oh yeah, thanks, man. It's a place for me. Let's see. People get lost and trapped in caves. Got that one. I worry a lot, and I'm hairy. Uh-oh, that's not good. We got to get you a razor. Let's see. Fran Tarkin. I got that one. All right. Any more questions about missing people in the Old West? Has everybody watched our Blackfoot video? I'm proud of that one. I think it's a good episode. If you haven't watched it, we're going to wrap this up here in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. So once you're done with this, go directly to that video, ignore your friends and family, make your way right over to that video and watch that. I have many sinkholes on my property because of the abandoned mine. Oh, we've talked about your abandoned mine, Bamadana. We got to fix those sinkholes up. We got to call the cement guys out. I don't know who fixes sinkholes. Has everybody heard of Mel's Hole on Art Bell on the Coast to Coast, where the guy called in from somewhere in the Pacific Northwest? He found a hole on his property. He said that they never could find out how deep it was. Supposedly there was like dogs that would jump into it and, disappear, but then the dog would reappear on the property later. Very strange. And he took a deep sea fishing rod and it's pretty smart. He took deep sea fishing rod and line and put a roll of lifesavers on it, and then let the line go, thousands of feet of line on a deep sea fishing reel. It's like this big. Let it go and go and go. It got all the way to the end. And he thought, well, if there's water down there, it'll dissolve the lifesavers. He pulled it back up. They were all completely intact. So they didn't get anywhere near the bottom. So nobody knows where to this. Mel mysteriously disappeared himself after supposedly moving to Australia. Again, if you want to disappear, just go to Australia, it sounds like. But we never found out exactly where Mel's hole is. It's supposedly on private land. Some people say that he was found out and he found like some government secret and he was taken out. But it's a great mystery of the Coast to Coast show. It's famous. You can go just look up Mel's hole on YouTube after watching our videos, and you'll see like hour-long interviews where he's explaining this to Art Bell in great detail. Some people say it was a hoax. I don't know. He really made up a hell of a story if it was. Bama Deanna says, I've heard of Mel's hole. It was a hoax. Really? Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. It could be a hoax. It could be a hoax. It's a good story though. Fun fact, in 1627, but there must be giant sinkholes out there, right? Like that's not impossible. In 1627, Iceland was raided by North African raiders where they abducted people to sell as slaves in Africa. Take a look at a map. It's insane. No, that was carried out for centuries, the Barbary Coast slave trade. And I thought a cool movie is the 13th Warrior, because it shows it's a relative, it's based on semi-true accounts of Ibn al-Sadin, I forget. But it shows, if nothing else, the contact of Northern European and Middle Eastern African cultures. There was we just think of it like raiding in the Northern Sea in Northern Europe. It's like, no, the Vikings were worldwide, at least old worldwide. They went to Ireland, they went to Northern Africa, they went to the Middle East, all through the Mediterranean. They were everywhere. That was compelling radio. Mel's hole was. It was. Bama, how do you know it was a hoax? Has it been outed as a hoax? I haven't looked into it that much. I just grew up with the story of Mel's hole. Let's see. African Raiders. Yeah, that was a compelling radio. Okay, got that. Great movie. Which one's a great movie, Doc? Let's see. I love how they did the language shift on 13th Warrior. That was clever. It's a good movie. It's a fun watch. It's not like a history documentary, but it's a fun watch and a look into local lore. And there's lore of these hill tribes coming down from the hills or coming up from the valleys to attack local villages all through native cultures. We talked about that in the Nahanni Valley. We did the Headless Valleys story 5 live streams or so ago. And it talks about the Nahanni people being continually attacked and harassed by this valley people who, I believe that it's the Dine people who were being attacked by the Nahanni people, this mysterious tribe that appeared with the fog and would take off with their women and children and unalive their warriors and disappear into the mist. And supposedly they were unaliving miners and explorers into the area as well. It's a bit of it's an unsolved mystery in and of itself. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, go back and look at our live stream from a week ago. It's the Valley of the Headless Men, I think it is. Maybe I'll watch that tonight if it's free somewhere. The 13th Warrior. I think the 13th Warrior is free on YouTube. I think. It's a retelling of Beowulf. The 13th Warrior, yeah, I guess it is, huh? But there was some real accounts from Ibn Salid, if I'm getting that name right. Like he was a real guy. It's an amalgamation of real guys, to the best of my recollection. Let's see. Got that. All right. Scan in the chat here. I miss Art Bell. What a nice way to end the day. Midnight at the Oasis. Dude, such good songs all the way through. All the way through. Every song he had was a banger. What was the other one? Frankie Valli tune. It was so good. I got to bounce, y'all. Space Cowboy. Cowboy out. Thanks for the show, HOKC. Absolutely, man. Good seeing you, Space Cowboy. Come on back tomorrow. We'll be here. Love talking some history with y'all. All right. Does anybody else have any questions, anything else they want me to hit this evening before I get back to work writing? Got to do a lot of writing today, folks. Got to do a lot of writing and videos, like actually on camera videos. He is historical. He reported on the Rus. Are you talking about Ibn Salid? I'm guessing, Doc. All right. Yeah, let me know who you're talking about specifically, Doc, because I want to know that before we bounce. Anybody else have any big plans for the week, too? Just getting started. It's only Monday. For better or for worse. Yeah, let's see. Tomorrow, not sure what the live stream is going to be yet. We're going to develop that tonight. We'll figure out what the coffee stream is going to be. So if you haven't been to our coffee streams, we stream at 11 a.m. usually on weekdays. So that's 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. For our UK viewers, that is 5 p.m., 4 p.m. for y'all. GMT. I get berated by our beloved UK listeners for messing up my time zones. Do you attend historical reenactments? No, I haven't, but I would like to. There's quite a few around here in Texas that I'd like to go see. I'd like to go to a Mountain Man rendezvous and a reenactment on a Civil War battlefield. Ibn Fayed. Thank you, Doc Will. That's who I'm talking about. Ibn Fayed. I think I'm saying that right. I'm not the best with Middle Eastern names. I have a lot of Middle Eastern friends in Austin. And sometimes I mispronounce their name. They don't mispronounce mine, but I feel like mine's pretty easy. Brandon, you can pull that off. That's not that hard. All right, let's see. One last thing before I go. Art Bell bumper music playlist. That's actually on YouTube already. I know. I wish I could use. Dude, can you imagine how fun this would be if I could use bumper music? Dum 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 dum. That'd be so cool. A buddy of mine used to do the reenactment of Goliad. Really? Yeah, I'd like to go to that. There's plenty of those around, especially Central Texas, where these towns were involved in the Revolution. There's a lot of that. I need to go do it. Find music that's in the public domain. I've been looking, Space Cowboy, but I can't find anything that's cool. I'll try to find something for the next show. Like, it would be cool to have intro music. The public domain stuff I've found so far has just been like, that's not the vibe. But we'll find something. We can find it. YouTube's got some free songs. We'll figure that out, because it's like, yeah, it'd be really cool to have music. But I want to have like You Should Be Dancing by the Bee Gees coming on. I'll walk out to that. Walk out to Welcome to the Jungle. Freeze All Right Now. I think that'd be cool. Let's see. Kickstart Your Heart by Motley Crue. I got a lot of good songs in mind. We just can't use them. Peace Frog by The Doors. Give Me 3 Steps. Got a lot of good ones in here. Working Day and Night by Michael Jackson. Taught me working day and night. Let's see. Use AI to make some stuff. I mean, I can make stuff that, like, I'm a musician. I can make it all, but I will find something on the public domain. We can do it. And if we don't, then I'll just make it. Let's see. Mike Savage used a lot of heavy metal for his bumper music. Does he really? I used to tour the UK and castles for that kind of thing. It wasn't brilliant because not that many people were doing it. Like 3 people attacking, like a UK reenactment, 3 people attacking a ruined fort. Yeah, but I mean, we're few and mighty, you know? At least they're out there showing you what it kind of looked like. Without those 3 people, we'd lose it all. So it's a huge thing in America. Mountain Men, Civil War. I think even Vietnam reenactments are pretty big. I love your background music for the regular stories. Thanks, man. I think like 60% of them are called Waltz with Zachariah, and I purchased that. That's like the original background music, and then the more recent ones are I made it. Like, it's just recorded guitar. So either way, I appreciate that. Let's see. We used to tour the UK. Okay, I got that. Skirmish line. Yeah, that'd be cool to see people get into a skirmish line. A Revolutionary War reenactment. Yeah, honestly, my first choice would be a rendezvous, because the mountain men just fascinate me. Oh, by the way, hit the like button if you haven't already. Share this stream with someone who might like it. Anyone who might like it. We're trying to grow the stream. So hitting the like button and the share really, really helps us out. Little Bighorn is a pretty good reenactment. Yeah, I'd like to go check that out too. We were just talking about, I think on the coffee stream, about what a terrifying scene it was over with Reno, Benteen, like all these things that unfolded in the whole battle. That the battle we just think of in this microcosm of Sioux and Cheyenne warriors swarming around Custer on a hill. It's like, well, that's really just one part of it. Do you think there were people back in Roman times who would do reenactments as a hobby, like 30 years after those battles? Uh, Not as a hobby, but they would have gladiators reenact battles. Like that scene from Gladiator is not totally inaccurate. They flooded the whole Coliseum to reenact a naval battle. HOKC field trip when? We got to figure out. Yeah, we'll figure out I think we should meet up at like a barbecue place or something like that. And then we'll work from there. Because we know everybody likes barbecue. Who doesn't like barbecue? Bob Knuth. Exactly. Well, thank you for, hopefully you're agreeing with me, Bob Knuth. Is it Knuth or Knuth? I don't want to mispronounce that. You used to do reenactments, Doc Will? Or skirmish lines? I know we have some reenactors in here. We got big history fans. Let's see. All right, I'm scrolling. Oh, got another one. Do you suppose there were military surplus shops in the Roman times? That's a good question. I never thought about that. I would think a lot of the weaponry probably went to gladiators, but I don't know, man. That's a good question. I wouldn't mind a map and the movements of two sides fighting so you get a feel of the land, but I wouldn't use AI without double checking the horse as it pumps out. Yeah, I think AI is the bubble's about to pop on that, man. It's good for some stuff, but I don't know. It doesn't look, I think pretty soon we're going to see that bubble burst. Yeah, I figured you were a reenactor, Doc. You know your stuff. Mountain Man, Cowboys, Civil War. Awesome, dude. The knowledge you have I figured that from the get go. You have very detailed knowledge, and that's what it takes to be a reenactor. I mean, you got to be dedicated. Ken Fox, Surrender Monkey. What a name. Surrender Monkey is our boy from the UK. He hasn't had a bad take yet, so we love having him here. It's good to see you, Ken Fox, by the way. I don't think I've seen you yet tonight. AI dog podcast is some of the best use for AI so far. Yeah, I mean, like, it can make entertaining stuff, but I think it's got some real limitations. It's never going to be what they call generative AI, where it's thinking on its own. It's just like a fancy Google, basically. It knows what you tell it to know, and it'll keep reinforcing itself. And that's just my opinion, just some hillbilly talking, but all right. We're going to wrap it up about the 2-hour mark. So anybody have anything else they want to get in? Like I said, stay tuned the rest of the week, same schedule, 11 a.m., 11 a.m. for me. So 12 noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Western time. We'll be doing our coffee chats. We have live streams at 9 a.m., 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific as well. Those are our main live streams. So come out for those like these. Always glad to see everybody here for those. 2 episodes at least coming out this week, possibly 3. We're going to get you at least 2 though. And what else do we have? Shorts coming. Got tons of shorts coming. I'm probably forgetting some other stuff, but just a very full pipeline. We want to give you as much info as we can because this is cool stuff, we think. So we're so grateful for you guys coming out. Really, truly, I have such a good time doing this. I learned a lot from you guys. So it's an awesome community we're building here. And thank you all again for coming out and supporting. Let me check the chat one more time. Your show is addictive. That's the idea, man. That's the idea. So if you're going to get addicted to anything, get addicted to HOKC. Let's see. But there's no treatment for that. It's a permanent condition. Do an episode on Kokopelli someday. Oh, Kokopelli. I'm going to write that down. I know that name. My brain's trapped up with a bunch of missing people right now. Kokopelli. Once I look that up, I'll remember it. The Mountain Men were the most incredible stories in the history of the United States. I like them because I think they're also pretty apolitical. They're interesting stories, interesting characters, and I don't know. I think they're much more accessible and agreeable for the average history fan. Troy, good night. Take it easy. Great show, Matt Beach. Good seeing y'all. Thank you all so much. We'll be back tomorrow, so come check us out then. Check us out all week. We got, like I said, tons of stuff coming, and we can't thank you enough, truly, for all the support. It's a blast. It's so much fun, truly life changing. So thanks again, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks again. God bless. Have a good night. Bye.